Hey, so today we're going to be going over our automated content generation system for like Instagram, YouTube, or X or anything like that. An AI agent lead generator for a go-to-market company, a consulting firm. And third is a business automation system using AI and large language models, and that'll be more general. I'll be going through all three of these systems in this video. And if you're a business and you need help generating more revenue through AI agents, AI automation, or any sort of automation systems, and please let me know a little bit more of what you need, and our team will be there to help you. All right, let's get into the video. All right, so this is the next job, AI automation engineer for Instagram workflows. So we're seeking an AI automation engineer to build an end-to-end Instagram content workflow from a topic YouTube link, a trending reel, X post, blog, competitor profiles, or raw notes. The system should research trends, analyze competitors, generate unique content ideas, and create real scripts, caption hashtags, click CTAs, stories, and carousel posts. It should also produce Instagram ready 9x16 videos with subtitles, visuals, transactions, music, and optional voice service. The solution should be modular, scalable, cost efficient, easy to maintain, and support multiple accounts. Please include relevant portfolio examples, recommended tech stacks, and whatnot. Okay, so this feels like a complete workflow for just like content generation, right? So here's my kind of implementation guide. If you guys are interested in this, please check out the school link below. You can join for free. It's just a free community I put together. I'll have all the documentation for all the builds that I've built, and then you can also go in there, ask me any questions. And if you really want this build to be created, just let me know and I'll create that as well. So I'll choose one of them and build them out this week, and then we can go from there. And if you guys have more questions, we can do that. So this is the Instagram AI content workflow, research content generation, video assembly, and multi-account publishing. So that's like YouTube, X, and Instagram. So we will have a modular workflow that turns approved sources into versioned Instagram content packages, routes it through brands and write reviews, renders deterministic 9x16 media, and publishes only approved artifacts to the correct professional accounts with a complete audit trail. So this is TypeScript, Fastify, Postgres, Redis, BullMQ, S3, Remotion, and Meta Instagram API. So Remotion, if you guys want to make videos programmatically, so you can create real MP4 videos with React using coding agents, build apps, and so it's really useful for things like this. If you guys ever want to check it out and check out the API documentation, so docs use ChatGPT as a coding agent prompt, so it's really good for things like that. Okay, let's go. So the first working results, when you start with one topic, the safe result is one immutable. So this is kind of like telling you what what you start with and what the final safe result would be. So this is the overall hierarchy of how things would go. So we have an approved source, notes URL X YouTube licensed media, and then the content pipeline normalizes it, research scores schema validated content packs, and then we can go to both the Postgres object store. So this stores like the source, versions, approvals, assets, and renders publish IDs. And object store can be something like S3 or something of that nature. And then we also have a human review for the brand claims, rights, scripts, and media approval. And then the object store also goes into renders and publishing the work, right? So before we start, phase one, proof source, research briefs, scripts, captions, carousel, story drafts, human approval for one account. Phase two adds reusable video templates and media approval. Phase three adds official Instagram OAuth, scheduling, and publishing and account isolation. So we also need to decide what our source adapter is allowed to do. So allow for implementations. Do not assume that claims or statistics are accurate. Blogs or public URLs, X posts, YouTube links, and everything of that nature. This document kind of tells you what source is allowed to do, right? So first we create these first, web control plane, account source, drafts, approvals, and create this way using React or Next.js for the user interface, and authentication. Fast API is basically the easily creating HTTP requests and stuff like that. So Postgres, durable workflow state and item potency. So just making sure that there's no repeat work with this kind of like durable ledger. Redis and BullMQ, research, renders, and publish jobs. So what Redis and BullMQ is, I've used it extensively for previous jobs, is basically if you have some sort of request or job to do, this puts it in a Redis BullMQ queue. So a queue is there basically for stacking jobs, and then we'll have like little workers, which other servers that pull from this queue, and then generate the whatever you kind of put it through. So for like video generation, it's good to have set up like this because you can't just do it in one request. It takes some time, maybe minutes or like 30 minutes or even an hour maybe, depending on how powerful your server is. So putting it through this queue makes it so that things will happen overnight and multiple workers can work on it at the same time. And then the item potency key also makes sure that we don't duplicate things. So object store, so we can actually store all of this video generation and sort the source videos that we're looking for. This can be some S3 store, just depending on what you want to use, whatever preference you want. Model adapter for schema, valid briefs, and content packages. Render workers, so this is for rendering the 9x16 videos and carousel. And we use FFmpeg for rendering these things. Instagram connector, so that's like just the OAuth and API and stuff like that. So these are the configuration values that we're using. So to start, we're going to create the safest foundation. Prepare one isolated development environment and one synthetic brand before connecting real contact or accounts. So synthetic brand into private source picture, APIs, PostgreSQL, disabled worker queues. So next is create the content ledger. Make every source, draft, approval, render, and publish attempts traceable and item potent. So we basically Postgres records the workflow. So and Redis only schedules work and object store only holds bytes. So it's kind of takes you through the step-by-step of what you want. So here are the tables that you need to make, the accounts, the source snapshots, the content versions, the workflow events, and the job outbox. So next, we want to ingest resources without building out a scraper dependency. So normalize permanent sources into a durable snapshot without provenance and confidence and write states. So we have like a post request for the sources and goes through the adapter, policy checks, immutable snapshots, and generates outbox. And this is also a little bit of the code and the post request that we make to the source. So there's also a disclaimer here. So the YouTube data API list caption tracks, but downloading captions requires authorization. Design the product around pasted or owner authorized transcripts. Do not promise universal transfer extraction from public links. There could be also a workaround. There's probably other APIs that allow you to scrape the YouTube scripts. So I've seen many things like that where you just kind of like pass in the YouTube link that you want, and then it'll be able to kind of output the full script for you. So next is to generate a structured content package. Your goal here is to produce traceable ideas and platform ready drafts without allowing them all to control workflow states. So we'll have a snapshot, a brand profile plus request formats, and then a model adapter, a schema validation, and deterministic scoring to make sure that we want the content that we want. So, and then we'll draft version. So by the end of it, you should see a one approved source produce a content package that passes schema validations, names its evidence, and can be rendered without asking for a model or missing the field. And then we put human approval between generation and effects. So this sets up essentially a required name approval for the exact text package, and again for the exact rendered artifact. So you start with the draft review, immutable text approval, render, media review, schedule, public authorization. And then by the end of this, you should see editing one word after text approval invalidates the approval. Rendering the same script creates a new media artifact that requires a new media decision. Next is to actually render the reels and carousel media deterministically. Turn approved text into reproducible media using constrained templates and licensed assets. So we basically start with the approved content hash. So if you don't know what a hash is, it's basically it takes anything. You can be words or content, like videos and images all have a certain hash towards them, and that creates a unique identifier. So it's basically creating a unique identifier for whatever media or source that you're giving it. Render the manifest as a resolution, motion and MPEG, FFmpeg processes it, QA probes, and immutable artifacts. So by the end of this, cost control is very important too. Cache source analysis, generated assets, and successfully rendered by content hash. Set per account monthly generation and render budgets. Retry must reuse complete assets rather than buying them again. So keeping the pricing is very important for this build as well. So by the end of it, you should see that the same manifest returns the same stored artifact. I'm missing license assets, subtitle workflows, and then next is published to the official Instagram API. So this is kind of straightforward. So by the time you have your content, you can publish it through the Instagram APIs. But another caveat that I have heard that sometimes Instagram kind of frowns upon you doing automated publishing. So maybe publishing it manually is better once everything's produced. It's just one click, right? So this is approving the paths, and then eventually operational monitoring as well is important to have that. So it's kind of like the flow as well, the durable workflows, and then some technical references. And this is also goes through like kind of like phases you want to go through. And also have like a checklist of like what would be considered done for this work. So, and then end of the documentation also have some links. So this is kind of like the full build, and you can have a general idea of how you can create this. Things like Claude or OpenAI Codex can really help with this build, and literally I'm sure like, even if you copy and pasted this into them, they can help you get started. But if you guys want me to create this full build, please let me know. I can do a step-by-step kind of tutorial and show you guys how to exactly create something like this. So leave a comment below and let me know if you want this build. So that's it for now. All right, so on to the next one. So this is a AI agent for a go-to-market system. So what this user wants is build a production grade Claude AI lead generation system for a contact consultancy. I'm looking for an exceptional AI agent and automation specialist to build a fully integrated lead generation and client acquisition system for content GTM. So when you have stuff like this, you just should like browse what the actual company they're talking about. Contact GTM is a niche advisory and go-to-market consulting focus dedicated for helping early starts, stage growth startups, and private equity-backed software firms scale their commercial operations with construction technology. Contact, interesting. So selling technology to the construction industry present unique hurdles. Interesting. Okay. So my specialist, fractional CRO, and go-to-market consultancy serving contact and prop tech companies. This is not a basic lead scraping, email sequencing, or any automation project. This system will need continuous monitor specialist, contact, and prop tech resources, company websites, funding announcements, investor portfolios, job vacancies, events, newsletters, and approved LinkedIn alerts. Identify company matching clear defined ICPs. So detect meaningful buying signals such as funding, commercial leadership gaps, sales recruitments, market expansion, acquisitions, and product launches. Research and score each account. Identify and verify the correct executive contacts. Check for warm introduction routes before using cold outreach. Produce genuinely individualized executive level outreach. Run controlled 6-stage Gmail sequences. Create LinkedIn research and manual outreach tasks without breaching LinkedIn terms. Classify replies and stop sequences immediately. Integrate with Gmail, Slack, HubSpot, and improve data. So if we go here, should be a newer job, so we can kind of go into it a little bit more. I don't see the attached. Is it here? Well, regardless, we get the idea. So they want agent just for looking for the leads that they want in a more sophisticated way, right? So this is my proposed solution right now. So we have an AI agent GTM system for construction tech go to market. So production implementation guide for signal monitoring, evidence led scoring, warm introductions, control Gmail outreach, reply saved CRM operations. So this is kind of like the overall view of how I would go about this infrastructure. So we start with approved sources, funding job sites, events and alerts, event ledger. So normalize dedupes so that we're not doing multiple things at the same time, or not at the same time, like multiple times the same event. Claude research, evidence packet structure output. It's very important. This part of it is very important because training Claude to do something like this is quite difficult, and we really have to nail that in. Decision engine, ICP plus score. And then this goes into HubSpot, Slack, Gmail sequence, and warm intro. So I have some of these documentations that I have linked at the end of the documentation that'll be useful. So this is the defined tools, specify tool schema, write effective descriptions, and control when calls your tools. So this is really important documentation to look through. So when you call the Cloud API with the tools, parameters, and kind of what you're able to actually do with it. And here is another important documentation to look at. So obviously, the biggest problem with like agents or like OpenAI models or Claude models is that it's really hard to get consistent results every time. And putting guardrails is really important when executing some of these projects that you're about to do. So it's really important to look over this, increase output consistency. So you really want to specify the desired output format, and this is kind of like how you would go about it. So you really have to get really granular about what instructions you kind of give Claude. And so next thing would be the Google Gmail API. It's really important to use that as well. And then next is we can look at HubSpot. So HubSpot is a CRM. So if you don't know what HubSpot is, it's a CRM platform for like all your customer details and stuff like that, and it's used very heavily in the industry in general. So there's usually a lot of integrations that come from projects like this. So you really have to dig deep into HubSpot, see what is available, and there's also like Make and N8N also provide a lot of integrations for them. So this kind of details like the associated records and some of like the shapes of some of the responses. And you also need to be familiar with Slack's documentation. But again, Slack is very normal for Make.com or NA integrations as well. So if you wanted to use Zapier or something like that, you can definitely integrate Slack into those. So it becomes very easy to use those. And this is this LinkedIn's user agreement I added there because they also were concerned about some of those LinkedIn without trying to breach any of LinkedIn's policies, right? So it's really important to go over those things. So your first working result, one synthetic funding or hiring signal is ingested once, normalized and linked to a canonical company domain. The ICP and signal score is reproducible from stored events, not hidden model judgment. A warm route match creates a manual introduction task and blocks cold outreach. So yeah, that's really important. A cold route prospects can enter a reviewed six-stage Gmail sequence that stops before classification on any reply. HubSpot shows the account, contact scores, and things of that nature. So before we start, the supplied proposal is based on the visible job posts, multi-source monitoring, ICP detection, buying signals, and whatnot. So it's just kind of detailing the scope of work we're about to do. So this is what you really need for this project to be fulfilled. You need a Google Cloud project, and that basically runs run workers, scheduled pubs, and secret management and logs. Postgres database, you can also use Supabase as well, or whatever other database that you're comfortable with using. Cloud API, that's really important. Just depending on what plan you want to use, you want to go with the higher plans with the more token usage, so that you'll actually be able to get use out of this and their project. So when you're explaining it to your employers or whoever hired you to do this job, it's important to get them on board and set realistic expectations for which plan that they want to go on. Gmail OAuth application as well, HubSpot app and Slack app, and approved data source. So finding the proper data source for all this is very important as well. So this is the operating contract. So this kind of determines all the conditions and like the required actions that you would want to take. So write the state contract before connectors or prompts. The event ledger owns evidence, determines code owns transitions, HubSpot owns commercial reporting, and Gmail owns delivered conversions. So there's also non-negotiables. I added little snippets here for when you're building this out. Cloud may extract, summarize, score components in draft. It may not decide consent, suppression, send eligibility, cadence, spend limit, or whether LinkedIn automation is allowed. Yeah, so these are the environmental variables as well. So these are all the ones that you would need. So like secret keys and stuff like that. So create the safe foundation. So like the very minimal foundation that you want for this is prepare isolated infrastructure, credentials, pictures on one global kill switch before a real prospect can be researched or contacted. So we start with the test stores. Cloud runs the worker, Postgres ledger, and then it goes into the cloud sandbox, and then drops an email, HubSpot sandbox, and then private Slack channel. So this is really the base of what you want and kind of like the workflow you want to go into. So so essentially we're creating the separate test cases, deploying TypeScript worker with HTTP endpoints for the scheduled jobs, and then create a managed Postgres database. So this is basically more Supabase, whatever you guys want to do. And then store the API keys, create a synthetic company contact, implement global send pause as a server-side check immediately before Gmail drafts, and default is true in every new environment. So if this doesn't work, we stop at first unverified credential and then kind of go from there and iterate onwards. Next is to create the durable go-to-market record. So raw source hash, Kanoko. Why is that so hard to say? Anyways, account domain, evidence back signal, decision, item point, external operations. So that would be the next step. So next is to ingest and normalize the buying signals, turn approved sources into small attributable signal records on a scheduled cadence without scraping LinkedIn or rebuilding the web. Yeah, and so this is the kind of also the structured output that you should expect. Next is research, qualify, and score the accounts. So next, use Claude to assemble an evidence packet while deterministic rules produce the final explainable account decisions. So this is kind of like reviewing what Claude is capable of doing when they're reviewing the accounts. Verify contact and check the warm route. So find the right executive with defensible contact evidence, then block cold outreach whenever an approved introduction route exists. So just checking whether like if there's any warm leads, we don't want to obviously contact them in a cold manner. We want to do the warm outreach first, whether that's it's not exactly email. It would be somewhere maybe at an event or something like that. Any opportunity where you can maybe introduce yourself before any cold outreach. Generate controlled executive outreach. Create a 6-stage Gmail sequence that is individualized from evidence, limited in volume, and unable to send when stage has changed. So this is building out the actual Gmail like sequence. If you guys haven't noticed yet, we're building this out little by little. So by the time you get to the end, you have a full working system. So this is kind of the timings that we want to kind of shoot for. Stop and reply, then classify. So make every inbound reply suppress future stats before AI classification. CRM updates or operator notification can fail. So Gmail watch. So we have kind of a webhook that's watching it. That goes into our pub sub. And then history list, message thread, suppresses transaction, cloud classification, HubSpot or Slack. So that the Slack integrations come towards the end. So now next it would be sync HubSpot, Slack, and manual LinkedIn tasks. Give operators one commercial record, one clear next action without turning LinkedIn or Slack into a hidden automation state. So this Postgres decision goes into item put in HubSpot upsert, concise Slack alert, and then optional manual LinkedIn research outreach task. So it creates a task for LinkedIn outreach. So these are the definition of done and reliability metrics that we also put in this document. So implementation plan and handoff. So this is kind of like the step-by-step of how this would be built out. So scope of work, discovery, source compliance, register ICP, contracts, cloud OAuth setup, name fixtures, and then exit evidence, approved decisions. And then like this basically goes week by week in implementation and the final kind of build out. So we also have this Claude implementation tools, links, and any of the other documentations that's also in this that you would need to make this build out. And you basically have everything here. I'll have this document in my school community for your school community. You guys can go there, ask any questions regarding the build, and then we can go from there. And I can, if you guys want me to build this out as well, please leave a comment below, and then I'll pick one that's really popular, and then I'll build that out for the week and have a full-on implementation for you guys. Thank you. All right, let's start with the build an AI powered business automation platform. So this is just the job posting that was given to us, and then we'll move on to the implementation right after I read what the actual job is for. So what they said was we're looking for a skilled AI automation engineer to help build a modern business automation platform using AI agents and large language models. The platform should automate customer interactions, internal operations, data processing, repetitive business tasks. It will generate with multiple third-party services through APIs, execute complex workflows, and use AI to make intelligent decisions, generate responses, and complete actions automatically. Experience with OpenAI, n8n, Make.com, Python APIs, webhooks, RAG, and agentic AI frameworks is highly preferred. If you build AI assistant AI agents or advanced workflow automations, we'd love to see your portfolio and discuss the project. So I'm just going to build out a general kind of implementation guide that you can probably follow, and this company can also follow in order to implement whatever basically what that they want. So you could also download this document in our school community. You can join for free, and all the documentation for any of my videos will be there, and that's kind of like the source of where you can also talk to me and things like that. So that is a good place. So what we're starting with is n8n plus OpenAI, a retrieval, human approval, and traceable API actions. What you'll eventually get from this is a one production shaped customer support workflow that receives an event, retrieves approved business knowledge, proposes a structured decision, routes it through a policy gate, and logs every outcome. It begins in shadow mode, so the first real traffic produces evidence without changing a live system. So this is kind of like the workflow of what is going to happen throughout the system. So first we start with a trigger, some sort of support event or webhook that happens, and then we normalize it. So we kind of have to structure the data that we're retrieving and normalize it into the way we want. And then retrieve it, approve policy evidence, decide structural proposal, policy gate, and then it goes into 3 different flows: the automatic, allow list, low risk, action only, human, verified approval, and then shadow log proposal, no external rights. So this isn't like a permanent change right now. Okay, so before we start, these are some of the technologies that you'll be using. So n8n, if you're not familiar, is basically an automation platform. So it's a no-code solution, similar to Make or Zapier, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. So let's just go to the docs and a workflow automation. So you can come here, sign in, sign up. I believe you get some pricing there's some limitations based on what the pricing you want to do. But otherwise, this is like the basic platform. There's a bunch of integrations that you have. Basically, anything you can really think of, you can connect OpenAI, Gmail, Slack, Google Sheets, AI agents, whatever you really want here. I find that these guys have quite a lot of kind of integrations compared to some other places, but you really can't go wrong with what you choose here. And then OpenAI Response API. So if you go to the OpenAI Response API documentation, you can see a bunch of things that like your OpenAI key can use. And depending on the model and what you choose, it'll take up a certain amount of tokens. And you probably, most tasks probably require the lesser versions. You don't really have to go all the way up to 5.6 to get like the most of what you want. And then PostgreSQL is a relational database. Basically, it's your core database that you'll be using. You can also use Supabase if it's more beginner friendly instead of setting up a whole server for the Postgres instance. And then there's also OpenAI's vector store version retrieval over approved support policies, and that's basically what it would be doing. And then Target API Sandbox. Let's search that. Yeah, so Target API is basically the Sandbox help desk or CRM adapter for tags, queues, and internal hosts. Internal what? Notes. Cut this out. So Target API is basically what it'll be doing is a Sandbox help desk or CRM adapter for like tags, queues, updates, internal notes, and approved replies, and then approval channel, a verified like Slack channel or something that we can integrate into this so that you can review it and make any approvals. So configuration, we have the configuration worksheet. So your goal here for the first part is define one observable business result and a small action vocabulary before creating an AI node. So we see like a new support ticket, read what the subject message is, retrieve it, propose, write, and measure. Human agreement. So there's kind of like the steps that you have to for the initial kind of phase of this. So next you create a durable case and an audit model, which is basically make, replay safe and preserve the input, evidence model version, gate results, approval, and provide outcomes under one case ID. So these are some of the tables that you can create in Postgres. So the automation cases, which has like the ID, the tenant ID, some source, the mode, and then automation decision. So what like kind of direction you want to take it in, automation actions, the actions, and automation audit. Next is build the NA and project skeleton. So I've also given you like the workflows that you want to go into. So first the case intake, which would have the webhook normalizing it, observe case, retrieve KB, decide, gate, save decision, and route. So it kind of goes through like the exact workflows that you want to be using here. And then credential configuration, you also want to use N8N credentials for the OpenAI API keys, Postgres connections, Target API nodes, and approval channel OAuth. So like things like your Slack channels and things in that nature. Also N8N variables, so these are like kind of your secret keys. And then Target Sandbox and operator record. And then the next step would be receive, authenticate, and normalize the events, reject unauthorized input, create one stable contact, and acknowledge the source without waiting for the AI path. So here's like the code for normalizing the events as well. So there's also, you'll also sometimes see idempotent inserts where basically what idempotent means is that every event has its own unique like idempotent key. So similar events cannot be created multiple times. So say for example, if you're trying to pay for something, each transaction usually would come with the idempotent key so that it is linked back to that one transaction. So even if it's retried multiple times, it'll only go through that one transaction ID. So even if it was created again, it won't be created multiple times, so that it would check the database for that kind of idempotent key, and then if it's already created, then it won't do it again, and then things like that. Because it's essentially because if you're working with a lot of servers and a lot of workers or things of that nature, you can't really guide the work to be done. Like, you can't kind of like guarantee that a work is going to be done by one worker. Sometimes the two workers could pick up the same job, and then if one finishes it, you don't want the other one to also finish it again, right? So it's important to have idempotent keys. So next is create a small version knowledge base. So you have to give the model approved reviewable business material and make every retrieval reproducible by KB versions. So current frequency, so this is some documentation that you can kind of pass through. So this is kind of basically telling you how to create the OpenAI vector store for your knowledge base. So you can just pass in a lot of the business information through this, and it'll kind of retain that knowledge. So this is the next one is to retrieve evidence before asking for decisions. So return compact scored evidence with stable file references. Do not send an entire document collection to the model. This is continuing to talk about the vector store. Next, ask the model for proposals, not permission. So generate one constrained decision package from the case and evidence. Deterministic code will decide whether the proposed action may run. So let's read this for a second. So system instructions. So this is basically instructions that you're giving the actual model. So what we want to do is your support operation decision assistant. So grounding. So use only the supplied case and evidence for company specific claims. Cite only supplied files. If evidence is missing, conflicting, or not applicable, choose no action or draft reply and explain what a human must verify. Decision, choose exactly one action, add tag, route to queue, draft replies, or no actions. Do not promise refunds, credit legal. So you just continue to like add the constraints that you want the model to be performing, right? Next, enforce and parse the structured decision. So reject missing fields, invalid enums, fabricated evidence measures, and incomplete model responses before policy routing. So this is basically the schema that you get back, like the intent, priority actions, draft response. So this is what the model has given you. Yeah, and then next, enforce the confidence and risk gate. Your goal here is to combine mode, evidence, risk, and action. Allow list requires arguments and confidence in determinist code. So apply the policy here. And then, so see, these are some of the routes. So shadow save proposal evidence, create no target actions. Human, create pending approval actions and notify verified approver. Auto, call action workers only for the configure low risk allow list and no action. Close or queue for reviewing according to the rationale, right? So then now we can also add a verified human approval path. Let an authorized operator inspect the case evidence draft and then propose right before the action worker receives it. So the approved card must show both the case ID and the original customer message, proposed action, exact argument, so that we can like review it, right? So so this is like I mentioned before, execute each external write idempotently, claim one determinate action, call a sandbox API, and persist provider truth before reporting success. So this is kind of making sure that we still have an idempotent state here. Yep. So this next step is to run a 1 week in shadow mode. So we can measure judgment on representative traffic before the agent receives write permission. So this is just making sure that what you're doing is actually working and you're not kind of jumping the gun and making something that doesn't work essentially. Yeah, and then this is the rollout kind of flow. So we always have a 2 week first implementation. So day 1 to 2. Confirm pilot process, target APIs, action allow list, owner test events, and then we'll go up to day 9 to 10, shadow review form, evaluate reports, walk through run, and next slice recommendations. So it's kind of going through the exact process that you would go through when building this out. And then this is also gives us like the complete test of what needs to be the test cases that would for you to go through. And then finally like the definition I'm done, and we also have like a checklist here. So we can record a 15-20 minute walkthrough, architect and scope, and intake, and then shadow messages and roll out known limits. So this is also the technical safety, some like retries, failures, and stuff like that. And then we also have the documentation for some of the setup references. So if you want to look at like NANN and OpenAI documentation, I provide the links as well. And yeah, so basically that's kind of the gist of it. If you guys want me to actually build this out for you, kind of a sample starting, just leave a comment below if you really want this build out, and I'll build it out sometime this week. So also subscribe, because then you won't be able to, you won't miss any of my content. And then yeah, we'll go on to the next builds from here.